I never thought the stars would look so cruel. From Earth, they had always seemed beautiful, cold fire scattered across the black canvas of night, symbols of hope and wonder. But the first time I saw them from orbit, really saw them, I realized how small we were, how fragile, and apparently, so did the rest of the galaxy. My name is Daniel Reeve. Before all this, I was nothing special, just a mid-level systems engineer working on the orbital elevator in Nairobi. I kept the power grids balanced, the magnetic lock stable, and I drank too much coffee. My life was steady, predictable, even dull, until the day the summons arrived. It came not by message, not by ship, but by presence. The sky above Earth tore open one morning with a ripple like liquid glass. From it descended a vessel the size of a continent. It didn't move with rockets or engines. It drifted silent, as if the very universe bent to its will. Governments panicked. Militaries scrambled jets. And then, before the first missiles could be armed, every human on the planet heard the voice. Not in our ears, in our minds. Humans of soul, you are called. The voice carried weight, like stone grinding against stone. It wasn't just sound, it was authority, command, inevitability. The governments had no choice. We didn't resist. We couldn't. The next day, a selection process began. Not volunteers, not elections. They chose us. Nobody knew why. Soldiers, farmers, scholars, janitors. A patchwork of humanity swept up and pulled aboard that impossible ship. And that's how I, Daniel Reeve, systems engineer, nobody, found myself bound for the stars. The inside of the alien vessel was wrong. Gravity shifted with every corridor. Walls hummed as though alive, pulsing with veins of light. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something sweeter, like overripe fruit. We were herded into chambers of shining metal, examined by beings that looked different every time I blinked, like their forms were unstable, shifting between dimensions. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The journey ended when we were thrown into a vast hall, big enough to fit 100 stadiums. At its center, a towering dais shimmered with alien figures. Hundreds of them, each species more bizarre and terrifying than the last. Some had crystalline bodies that rang like bells when they moved. Others oozed across the floor like molten tar. A winged thing with too many eyes perched high above us, watching. And then there was us, barely 100 humans, dressed in mismatched uniforms and civilian clothes, standing in a trembling knot under the gaze of the galaxy. A figure of liquid silver stepped forward, its body rippled like water, contained by invisible skin. When it spoke, the sound was both beautiful and cruel. Species Soul 3, you are recognized. Your kind has breached the veil of stars. You now fall under the judgment of the Concord. The hall vibrated with low murmurs, growls, clicks, trills from alien throats. None of them sounded friendly. It is tradition, the silver being continued, that any species who reaches interstellar capability must prove themselves. Strength, endurance, intellect. Only then are you permitted a voice among us. Failure. It let the word hang, its body rippling into 1,000 razor-sharp edges. It is extinction. The hall erupted. Crystalline beings chimed laughter. The molten creatures bubbled mockingly. A thunderous insectoid voice hissed. Weak, fragile, unworthy. I felt the words pierce into me. My knees wanted to give out. Around me, some of the others cried. Others shouted back in anger. But all of us felt it, that crushing truth. Compared to them, we were nothing. We had no claws, no armor, no wings. We were soft. One alien, massive and armored like living stone, stomped forward. Its voice was like an avalanche. Why waste trials? Look at them. They break before the games begin. End this farce. And the hall roared with approval. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was defiance. Maybe it was terror. But my voice broke free before I could stop it. We're not weak. The hall fell silent. 100 alien eyes turned toward me. I could feel their weight pressing down, daring me to continue. My throat went dry. My hands shook. But somehow, I forced the words out. We may not have your claws or your shells or your whatever you are, but we endure. We survive. You think we're weak because we bleed easy? Because our bones break? You're wrong. I swallowed hard. My voice echoed strangely in that vast chamber. Every time a universe tried to kill us, we got back up. We starved, we froze, we burned, and still we lived. We don't give up. Not ever. So if you want to test us, fine. But don't you dare call us weak. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the silver being rippled, almost like it was smiling. Very well. Humanity will face the trials of Concord. Your challenge begins at first light. The chamber erupted again, but this time I didn't hear the laughter. My heart pounded too loud. I had just damned us all, or saved us. I couldn't tell which. That night, we were herded into a holding barracks carved into the ship's living walls. Beds of woven fiber pulsed faintly with warmth, but none of us slept. Fear clung to the air like smoke. Across the room, a woman in a UN jumpsuit whispered prayers under her breath. A soldier cleaned his rifle, though we all knew it was useless here. Beside me, a young man in a mechanic's coveralls sat with his head in his hands, muttering, "We're dead. We're all dead." I wanted to believe he was wrong, but doubt gnawed at me. What had I done? Why had I spoken? Then I remembered something. My father's voice years ago, when I was a boy climbing a hill too steep for my little legs. I had fallen, scraped my knees, wanted to give up, but he had lifted me, set me back on my feet, and said, "Dan, being strong doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get up one more time than you're knocked down." That memory stayed with me. Maybe that's all we were, fallible, breakable, fragile. But damn it, we always got back up. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. When the morning came, if you could call it that in a place with no sun, the silver being returned. Species Soul 3, the arena awaits. And as the walls opened to reveal a chamber so vast it seemed carved into the fabric of space itself, filled with shifting platforms, alien beasts, and obstacles that looked designed to kill, I felt my fear melt into something sharper. Not courage, not yet, but defiance. They said we were weak. Tomorrow we would prove them wrong. The arena wasn't built for us. It wasn't built for any creature that bleeds the way humans do. When the walls of the barracks dissolved, the first thing I saw was a horizon that curved upward, impossibly high, like the inside of a titanic bowl. The arena stretched farther than my eyes could see, its ground broken into shifting stone platforms suspended above a bottomless void. Each platform hovered in midair, pulsing faintly as if alive. Bridges of light flared, connecting some platforms while others drifted freely, colliding, splitting apart. And then I noticed the sky. It wasn't sky at all, but an open window into the void of space. Stars blazed above, close enough to touch, framed by colossal structures that turned slowly, like machinery powered by gods. We were ants in a giant's playground. The silver being's voice echoed in our minds. This is the arena of titans. Here, species prove worth through trial. Survive 3 rounds, and humanity earns its place. Fail and you are erased. The ground shuddered. Across the arena, other species appeared on platforms of their own. My breath caught in my throat. On one platform, crystalline warriors stood tall, their bodies refracting starlight into blinding beams. On another, insectoid giants flexed their sigh-like limbs, their chittering screams rattling the air. Winged predators with razor feathers wheeled overhead, casting shadows that fell like blades across the stone. And then there was us, 100 humans. No weapons beyond what we could improvise. No armor. No natural defenses. We looked so small, so breakable, against the backdrop of galactic predators. The mechanic beside me whispered hoarsely, "We're screwed." I didn't answer. My own fear was clawing at my ribs. But I remembered what I had said in the council chamber. We don't give up. Not ever. If I faltered now, my words would be nothing but ash. The silver being's voice rang again. First trial, the hunt. The platforms shuddered. From a void below, cages rose, massive, bone-like prisons spling open. What emerged made my blood turn to ice. Creatures taller than buildings, with tusks like spears and eyes burning like coals. Their skin rippled with armored scales that shifted color to match the platforms beneath them. When they roared, the air itself trembled. Predators, designed to kill. Around us, the other species roared back, ready, eager. We had nothing but our hands, our minds, and each other. The trial began. The first monster leapt. A stone-scaled titan landed on the nearest human platform, the impact shattering the bridge of light connecting it to ours. Humans screamed, scattering like ants. The thing's tusk impaled a man before he could move, tossing him into the abyss like a rag doll. Panic spread fast. Some tried to fight with fists and makeshift clubs, only to be swatted away like toys. Others fled across the light bridges, only to watch them vanish beneath their feet. I forced myself to breathe. Think. We can't match strength. We have to use what we have. The creature's color-shifting scales camouflage, but it was slow to turn. I shouted over the chaos. Eyes! Go for the eyes. A group of us grabbed shards of broken stone, hurling them at the beast's glowing eyes. It bellowed, staggering, swiping blindly. That gave others time to drag the wounded back. For the first time, the thing faltered, but there were more. Across the arena, I watched insectoid warriors leap effortlessly from platform to platform, slicing beasts apart with their scythes. Crystalline soldiers refracted beams of light that burned holes straight through armor. Even the winged predators above dove as one, coordinated, tearing titans apart mid-leap. And us? We were improvising, surviving by inches. One of the tusk monsters lunged at a bridge where children had been herded by mistake. Their screams tore through me. Without thinking, I sprinted. The bridge trembled under my feet, light flickering. The beast's jaws gaped, descending. I had nothing but a length of broken pipe, but I swung with every ounce of terror and fury in me, slamming it into the beast's glowing eye. It shrieked, stumbling, its tusks slicing empty air. The children scrambled past me to safety. My hands shook, pipes slick with alien blood, but I was still standing. The mechanic, his name was Alvarez, I learned later, stared at me wide-eyed. You're insane. Maybe, I gasped, but it worked. Hours blurred into madness. We couldn't fight like the others, but we could adapt. We learned to bait the titans into charging across unstable platforms, letting their own weight collapse the ground beneath them. We used bridges as traps, timing our run so the beast fell through vanishing light. We climbed their backs, drove pipes and stone into joints and eyes, until even monsters screamed. We died, too. Too many. Every victory cost us lives. By the time the silver being's voice returned, only 60 of us remained. But we were alive, and the arena noticed. The crystalline warriors, once sneering, now watched us with sharp curiosity. The insectoids paused their chittering to tilt their heads. Even the winged predators circled slower, observing. We had survived the first trial. Improbable, the silver being intoned, but undeniable. Humanity endures. The arena shifted. Platforms drifted closer, merging into a colossal plain of cracked stone. From above, shards of burning metal began to fall like meteors, smashing into the ground. Second trial, fire and storm. We barely had time to react. Flaming debris crashed down, smashing platforms, sending shockwaves that threw people screaming into the void. Lightning arced across the plain, searing stone into molten glass. The air filled with smoke and static, choking us. This wasn't about predators. This was about survival itself. Humans huddled together, covering each other as we scrambled for shelter. But there was none, just falling fire and unending thunder. I grabbed Alvarez by the arm. We need to move. We can't outrun it, but maybe we can outlast it. How the hell do we outlast this? I pointed upward. Through the smoke, I spotted something. Metal spires jutting from the platforms, faintly glowing. Conductors. Lightning rods. Head for the spires. I shouted, "They're stabilizers, shield generators maybe." We ran. Fire fell. Lightning struck. My lungs burned. Every second felt like it would be the last. But when we reached the spires, the air shimmered and the storms been around us diverted. The others saw. They followed. It wasn't safety. Not fully, but it was enough. Together we endured. When the storms finally ceased, only 30 humans remained. Half of us gone in fire and ash. My body ached, lungs raw from smoke. But I was alive. The arena rumbled one final time. Platforms drew together, locking into a single battlefield. At the far end, massive gates opened. From them emerged warriors, champions of other species. Crystalline blades, insectoid scythes, winged killers with eyes like razors. The silver being's voice thundered. Final trial, dominion. Not beasts, not storm, but you against them. Prove your species or perish. Around me, my people trembled. We had no weapons, no armor, no chance. And yet something stirred in me. Something raw, something human. I stepped forward, voice cracking but strong. Listen, we can't win by force, but we can outthink them. They expect us to fight their way, so we fight ours. The others gathered close, desperate for hope. I didn't have answers, just instinct. But that's what humanity was, wasn't it? Instinct sharpened by desperation. I looked at them all battered, terrified, alive. They want to see what we are? Then let's show them. Together. The gates boomed shut. The champions advanced. And for the first time in the arena, humanity didn't run. We stood. Ready? The arena ended not with cheers, but with silence. When the final blow landed, when our last desperate trick toppled the crystalline champion into the abyss, the battlefield stilled. Alien eyes fixed on us, no longer laughing, no longer sneering, just watching. We had survived. Barely. The silver being appeared, rippling like molten light. Its voice rang through the minds of every species gathered. Unthinkable. Against storm, against beast, against dominion, you endure. Humanity persists. It paused. Then, softer, almost amused. But endurance is not enough. To stand among the concord, you must claim power. And power is found only in the relics of the fallen. The arena dissolved around us, platforms crumbling into nothing. Light swallowed my vision, pulling me through a tunnel of stars. When it cleared, we stood on a world that reeked of death. The sky was a dull, ashen gray. Towers of blackened stone jutted from the ground like broken teeth. The air was thick with dust and the faint smell of rot, though nothing living remained. We had landed in the corpse of a civilization, one that had been ground in nothing ages ago. The silver being's voice whispered across the wasteland. This was Kravak's prime, once the heart of an empire that spanned 1,000 systems, until war consumed it. Here lies your next trial. Find the relic of Kravak's. Return it to the gate. Succeed and you advance. Fail and you join the ashes. The voice faded. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. Alvarez muttered beside me, "Great. Another suicide run." I couldn't argue. The ruins stretched endlessly, jagged spires leaning like drunk giants, shadows twisting into shapes that played tricks on my eyes. Every step echoed, like the world itself was hollow. We were 30 humans now, 30 out of the 100 pulled from Earth. None of us soldiers. Not really. Just scraps of humanity clinging to life in a galaxy that wanted us gone. But scraps can cut. Scraps can endure. We moved cautiously through the ruins. The ground was cracked, black glass from ancient firestorms. Our footsteps stirred ash that clung to our throats. The silence was wrong, too deep, too heavy. No wind, no birds, no insects. Just absence. Then we saw the first bones. They were enormous. Rib cages taller than skyscrapers. Spines coiled across the ground like highways. Some skeletons were alien, yes, but others looked terrifyingly familiar. Humanoid. Not human, but close enough to make my stomach twist. One of the older men whispered, "God, help us!" But God was silent here. Hours passed. The ruins seemed endless, looping back on themselves. Hunger gnawed. Thirst burned. Morale frayed. That's when the whispers began. At first, I thought it was my imagination. A faint hiss, just behind my ear, like words I almost understood. Then others heard it too. Faces went pale. People muttered, argued, snapped. The whispers grew louder the deeper we went. Voices. Alvarez spat. "This place is messing with our heads." "No," I said, though my own skull throbbed with pressure. "It's testing us. Same as the arena. Another trial." If that was supposed to comfort him, it didn't. We pressed on. The first attack came without warning. Shadows peeled off the walls. Not metaphorical, literal shadows, writhing like liquid smoke, pulling themselves into twisted forms with glowing eyes. They struck fast, cutting down 2 people before anyone could scream. Weapons did nothing. Fists passed through them. Even fire from scavenged torches only slowed them. The shadows whispered as they attacked, voices slithering into our ears. "Weak, frail, forgotten. You do not belong." Panic threatened to rip us apart. Then I remembered, back in the arena, the Titans had a weakness, a pattern, a flaw. Maybe these things did too. I forced myself to look past the terror, to study. The shadows flinched whenever light hit them. Not just fire, but even the faint glow of cracked alien crystals scattered in the rubble. "Light!" I screamed. "Use the crystals." We smashed them open, scattering shards that blazed with eerie blue flame. The shadows recoiled, hissing, their forms unraveling under the glow. With desperate shouts, we drove them back until they dissolved into smoke. The whispers faded. The silence returned. But 5 more of us were gone. We pressed deeper, hollowed out by exhaustion. Every ruin looked the same, yet the weight in my chest told me we were getting closer. The air grew colder, the bones larger. And then we saw it, the relic. It stood at the heart of a shattered plaza, a monolith of black stone, covered in runes that shimmered faintly, taller than any skyscraper, humming with energy that made my teeth ache. We had found it, and guarding it was death. The creature that rose from the dust made the arena titans look like playthings. It was a giant of bone and ash, stitched together from the corpses of Kravax Prime. Rib cages fused into armor, skulls embedded in its chest, 1,000 limbs writhing at its sides. Its eyes burned like molten iron. When it opened its mouth, the voices of the shadows screamed in unison. Half of us broke instantly, fleeing into the ruins. I never saw them again. The rest froze, terrified, hopeless. And then I remember my father's words again. Being strong doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get up one more time, then you're knocked down. This was humanity's moment to get up. "Listen to me," I shouted, voice raw. "We can't kill it, but we don't have to. We just need the relic." Eyes turned to me, wild with fear. We distract it. We split up. We make it chase us while one team grabs a relic. That's our only shot. Alvarez snarled, "That's suicide." "Yeah," I said, "but it's survival too. And survival is what we do." Silence. Then, slowly, heads nodded. Even in terror, we clung to that one truth. We don't give up. The battle was chaos. We split into 3 groups, scattering across the plaza. The bone colossus roared, swinging limbs that shattered stone like paper. Its shadowy minions rose again, shrieking, only to be held at bay by crystal fire. Alvarez and I ran for the monolith. Every step was death waiting to happen. A clawed limb smashed down, missing me by inches. Dust blinded us. Screams rang out behind. At the base of the relic, the runes blazed, responding to our presence. My skin burned just standing near it. How we move this thing? Alvarez yelled. We don't. I gasped. We activate it. I pressed my hands against the stone. Light flared, searing into me. Images slammed into my mind. Empires burning, fleets shattering. The last stand of Kravax Prime. Pain like fire ripped through my skull. But beneath it all, a voice whispered, "Take the flame. Carry the burden. Prove you are not ash." I screamed and pushed harder. The runes blazed brighter, until the monolith shattered. When the dust cleared, I was holding it, a shard of black stone, small enough to fit in my hand, yet burning with impossible weight. The relic, the colossus shrieked. Its form unraveled, bones collapsing into dust. The shadows screamed one last time and dissolved into nothing. And then there was silence, real silence. We had done it. We stumbled back through the ruins, fewer than 20 now, exhausted, broken, but alive. At the gate, the silver being awaited, its form rippled as it regarded us. And for the first time, I thought I saw something like respect. The relic of Kravax Prime. Few have faced its guardian and returned. Humanity surprises. I clutched the shard tight, its heat searing my palm. My legs shook. My throat was raw. But I raised my head. They said we were weak. I whispered more to myself than to it. But we're still here. And the galaxy was starting to notice. We thought the relic had bought us a moment of peace. We were wrong. The silver being didn't even let us rest. The instant I placed a shard of Kravax into the gate, light swallowed us whole. When it faded, we were standing in chains. Real chains. Cold, alien mail bound our wrists and ankles, humming with energy that seared if you pulled too hard. Our weapons, such as they were gone. The shard was gone. Even the faint warmth of hope I had felt for a heartbeat was gone. The place we stood in was no arena, no ruined world. This was a prison. The sky was a flat ceiling of iron clouds, pulsing faintly with light like a heartbeat. Rows of towers loomed, strung with glowing wires that stretched to infinity. And all around us, cages filled with the broken. I saw insectoid warriors, their sides shattered, antennae drooping. Crystalline soldiers dulled to cloudy husks. Winged predators with plucked feathers, their eyes dim. Dozens of species, once proud, now reduced to slaves. The silver being appeared above us, rippling like a liquid executioner. Third trial. The chains of fear. You claim strength. You claim endurance. But true strength is not how you fight when free. It is how you survive in captivity. Break the prison. Free yourselves. Or remain forever as dust beneath stronger wills. The voice faded, leaving only silence and the distant clank of chains. Alvarez muttered under his breath, "So this is it. This is where we rot." "No," I said, though my throat felt like ash. "This is where we prove them wrong again." We were herded by guards. Hulking, four-armed creatures with skin like bronze plates and eyes that burned like coals. Their shock staves cracked with electricity that made our muscles spasm. The cells were pits carved into the living rock. 10 of us were thrown together into one. The others scattered across different cages, ripped from our side. The door slammed shut with a hiss of energy. The stench hit me first. Sweat, blood, rot. The pit was small, barely enough to sit. The walls pulsed faintly with heat, like a heartbeat, reminding us we were inside something alive. From the shadows, other prisoners watched. A crystalline being with one arm shattered. An insectoid missing half its mandibles. A scaled reptilian thing with dull eyes. All broken. All beaten. And now us, The first days blurred together. Time had no meaning under the iron sky. They fed us only enough to survive. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling, stale and bitter. The guards beat anyone who spoke too loudly. Whispers slithered through the pits. Stories of those who tried to escape, only to vanish, dragged screaming into black tunnels. Hope was the first thing the prison tried to kill, and it almost succeeded. I saw humans crack. One of the older men begged for death. A younger girl curled into herself, rocking silently. Alvarez snapped, lashing at the walls until his knuckles split, screaming curses into the void. I wanted to break too. God, I wanted to. But then I looked at the others, at the broken alien prisoners, staring with dull eyes, at my people on the edge of surrender. And I remembered the arena, the relic, my father's voice. If we gave up here, it wouldn't just be failure. It would be extinction. So I spoke. At first, it was only whispers. Listen, I told them one night, as the iron sky pulsed dim above. We've survived worse. Beasts, storms, shadows. This isn't the end. Someone spat. We're chained like dogs. How do you fight chains? Not with strength, I said. With will, with hope. That's what they want to kill. Don't let them. I told stories. Old Earth stories. Shackleton in the ice. Harriet Tubman leading slaves to freedom. Soldiers at Dunkirk. People who had no chance, but endured anyway. The first night, no one listened. The second, a few leaned closer. The third, even the alien prisoners in the shadows tilted their heads. And by the seventh, when I spoke, the pit was silent. Listening, not broken. Not yet. That's when the test began. The guards dragged prisoners out one by one, demanding loyalty oaths. They promised food, freedom, life, if we betrayed the others. A crystalline being broke first. It whispered something to the guards, and the next morning it was gone. Then they came for us. A guard's voice hissed in my mind. Speak. Betray your kind. Tell us their weakness. And you walk free. My throat burned with thirst. My stomach twisted with hunger. My wrists ached from the chains. For a moment, I almost spoke. But then I thought of Earth, of oceans, forests, cities, of people who had no idea we were fighting for their right to exist. And I spat in the guard's face. The beating that followed nearly killed me. But when they threw me back into the pit, something had changed. The others looked at me, not with pity, with fire. Hope was spreading. Weeks blurred. We whispered plans in the dark. We studied the guards' patterns, the pulse of the chains, the hum of the walls. Alvarez discovered the metal wasn't just metal. It resonated with vibrations. He said, if we hit the right frequency, maybe we can overload it. We had no tools, no machines, just voices. So we used them. We hummed, low at first, then higher, then together. Our chains vibrated, faintly at first, then stronger. Guards beat us, but we kept humming. The alien prisoners joined, one by one, their strange voices weaving into ours. The prison shook. The iron sky pulsed erratically. The guards snarled, lashing with staves. But the sound grew louder, a harmony of defiance, of species once broken now united. And then, with a crack like thunder, the chains shattered. The uprising was chaos. We swarmed the guards, stealing their staves, driving them back with sheer fury. Crystalline shards cut through bronze skin. Insectoid claws tore into armor. Humans fought with everything. Fists, teeth, stones rage. I remember Alvarez screaming, swinging a stolen staff like a madman. I remember the young girl, silent for weeks, slamming a guard to the ground, her chain still clinging to her wrists. And I remember the moment we burst through the prison gates into the open, staring up at the iron sky as it cracked, light pouring through, the silver being appeared above us, rippling with unreadable emotion, unexpected, unprecedented. Not only do you break your chains, you free others, compassion where others show cruelty. unity where others fracture. Humanity redefined strength. Its voice rang through the ruins of the prison, and I realized we had done more than survive. We had changed the game. When the light took us again, carrying us from the broken prison into whatever waited next, I held my head high. We weren't just survivors anymore. We were leaders. There are many ways to kill a species. You can starve them, burn them, break their bodies. But the cruelest way, the way the Concord chose next, is to break their minds. When the light released us, we weren't standing in ruins or prisons anymore. We floated. The platform beneath our feet was narrow, barely wider than a city street, suspended in nothingness. Around us stretched endless black, deeper than night, darker than the void between stars. No galaxies, no suns, no point of light at all. Just silence. The kind of silence that pressed into your chest until you forgot how to breathe. The silver being appeared, drifting like liquid mercury above us. This is the edge, the threshold of a singularity. Here, time phrase. Light falters. Sound dies. Few minds survive the silence. Endure one cycle and you advance. Fail and you vanish. Then it was gone, leaving us alone in the dark. At first, nothing happened. We gathered close. 20 humans and a handful of the freed aliens who had chosen to follow us. The platform pulsed faintly beneath our feet, like a heartbeat, but one fading weaker each second. Alvarez muttered, "How long is a cycle?" No one knew. Time didn't flow here. Seconds stretched into hours, hours into eternities. The silence gnawed. By the first day, if it could be called that, people began whispering to fill the void. Anything, songs, prayers, nonsense rhymes. But the silence swallowed sound almost as soon as it left our mouths. Words felt thin, fragile, devoured by the dark. By the second, whispers turned to arguments. Every shuffle of a foot, every cough, scraped raw against the stillness until it felt unbearable. By the third, the first hallucinations came. A woman screamed that she saw her dead husband standing on the edge of the platform, calling to her. She ran toward him and nearly threw herself into the void before Alvarez tackled her down. But the truth was worse. I had seen someone too. My father, standing there, smiling, hand outstretched. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to believe. But I forced my eyes shut, nails digging into my palms until they bled. Not real. Not real. The silence pressed harder. By the fourth, we began to break. One of the crystalline beings shattered itself against the ground, shards scattering into the abyss. An insectoid slashed its own limbs off before throwing itself screaming into the dark. Humans curled into balls, rocking, whispering nonsense. The silence didn't just surround us. It crawled inside us, twisting thoughts into knives. I felt myself slipping too. My chest ached. My head throbbed. The silence whispered my failures, my doubts. Weak, fragile, pretender. I almost believed it, until I realized that was the point. The Concord didn't want to see how long we could fight. They wanted to see how long we could hope. That was a trial. And if hope was all we had left, then hope was what I would give them. I forced myself to my feet. My throat was raw, my lips cracked, but I spoke anyway. Listen to me. I know you can hear me. I know you feel like you're drowning in this silence. But it's not real. It's not stronger than us. Eyes turned toward me, some wide with fear, some dull with despair. They said we were weak. They said we'd break. But we don't. You hear me? We don't. We keep going. We always keep going. The silence pressed harder, as if trying to smother my words. So I shouted louder. I'm not giving up. Not here. Not ever. And neither are you. You want to beat this? Then remember who you are. Remember Earth. Remember your people. Remember why we're here. Alvarez's cracked voice joined mine. Then another. Then another. We sang, not well, not together, but loud. Old songs, folk songs, anthems, nonsense lullabies, anything to fill the void. The silence clawed at us, whispered, but we roared back with every word we had. And for the first time, the darkness faltered. I don't know how long we lasted after that. Time bled into nothingness. Voices cracked, bodies slumped, but we kept each other awake, alive, sane. When I fell, Alvarez dragged me back to my feet. When Alvarez broke, the young girl we had saved in the arena took his hand and whispered prayers into his ear. When the aliens curled in despair, we held them close, reminding them they weren't alone. We endured, not because we were stronger, not because we were fearless, but because we refused to face the silence alone. Then, at last, the light returned. It pierced the black like a knife, flooding the platform. My knees buckled as warmth touched my skin, the silver being shimmered into view. Its voice was different this time, softer, almost reverent, impossible. The edge devours all. Yet you sing. You turn silence into defiance. Weak, they called you. And yet, none endure as you endure. I looked around. Fewer than 15 of us remained, gaunt, hollow-eyed, but alive. Still alive. I raised my head, voice raw but steady. We're not weak. We never were. The silver being tilted, as if studying me. For the first time, I thought it bowed. Then the light took us again. When it cleared, we stood not on a battlefield, not in a prison, not on a dead world, but on a dais of white stone before the entire Concord. Hundreds of alien species stared down at us. The laughter was gone. The sneers were gone. For the first time, there was silence. Not the crushing, devouring silence of the edge, but the silence of respect. We had endured. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. The real trial was still to come. The trials were supposed to prove us. But the galaxy had other plans. When the light faded, we weren't on a test platform or a ruined world. We stood in the Concord chamber itself, a coliseum of stars suspended in endless space. Alien delegates filled the tiers. Crystalline choirs humming in unison, insectoid legions clicking their mandibles, scaled empires coiled in golden armor, thousands of species, watching. At the center, the silver being stood like liquid fire. Its voice echoed across the chamber. Humanity has endured the trials. Against beast, against storm, against shadow, against silence, they rise. Their worth is undeniable. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then the murmurs began. They are fragile. They are untested in war. They are chaos incarnate. The voices rose, sharp and hostile, until another voice thundered above them all. A creature stepped forward from the shadows of the chamber, taller than any I'd seen, plated in obsidian armor, its face a mask of jagged teeth, its very presence pressed like gravity. Enough, it roared. This farce ends now. The silver being shimmered. Overlord Veyrak, you are not recognized to speak. But Veyrak ignored it, turning his gaze on us. His eyes burned like coals. Weak creatures, pitiful survivors. The Concord wastes its time. While you play your games, my dominion spreads. My fleets already burn the rim. This war is inevitable, and these humans will be the first to fall. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered. Others hissed. Some trembled in silence. War. The word struck me harder than any trial. The silver being's voice cut through the chaos. The Dominion violates the Concord Accords. But your words are true. The trials are ended. The galaxy burns. It turned to us. Humanity, you have endured. But endurance is not enough. Will you stand aside and let older powers decide your fate? Or will you choose? The chamber spun. The voices blurred. My chest ached with the weight of the decision that wasn't mine alone to make. Alvarez hissed in my ear. We can't fight a war. We're barely standing. He was right. We were 15 survivors, gaunt and broken. Earth was defenseless. Our fleets laughable. Our weapons primitive compared to these civilizations. But then I looked around the chamber. I saw the insectoid delegates, mandibles clicking nervously. The crystalline choirs, their light dim. Dozens of species trembling under Veyrak's shadow. They weren't cheering him. They were afraid. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't just about us. The Concord wasn't strong. It was fractured. The great, species of behind rules, while the Dominion spread like wildfire. They had all the strength in the galaxy, but none of the courage. Maybe courage was the one thing humanity could offer. I forced myself forward, every eye in the chamber following. My voice cracked, but it carried. We didn't come here to fight your war. We didn't ask for this. But we won't stand aside while tyrants burn the galaxy. You call us weak? Fine. Then we'll be the shield for those who can't fight back. And if that means standing against you, Verac, then so be it. The chamber exploded with sound. Shock, outrage, disbelief. But beneath it all, a spark of something new. Hope. The days that followed were chaos. The Concord fractured further. Species scrambling to choose sides. Some bent the knee to Verac, swearing fealty to his dominion. Others huddled in fear, hoping neutrality would save them. And some came to us, the insectoids who had been enslaved before and refused to bow again. The crystalline choirs, whose worlds were first on the Dominion's borders. Even the broken refugees we had freed in the prison. They gathered, small and desperate, around humanity, not because we were strong, but because we had said no when no one else dared. We didn't have fleets. We didn't have weapons. But we had minds, ingenuity, desperation. In the hollow docks of an abandoned Concord outpost, we began to build. Alvarez became our chief engineer. Jury-rigging scavenged alien tech into ships that barely held together. The insectoids taught us to fight in swarms, coordinating strikes like living hives. The crystalline choirs sang harmonics that stabilized our unstable reactors. And us, we learned, faster than anyone expected, because that's what humans do. We learn, we adapt, we improvise. The first test came sooner than we wanted. A Dominion raiding fleet descended on the outpost. Sleek warships bristling with weapons, their hulls black as night. Our fleet? 3 barely functional cruisers, and a handful of shuttles with guns welded on. We should have run. We didn't. I still remember the first order I gave, my voice shaking as it crackled through the comms. Hit them where it hurts. Don't fight their way. Fight ours. We used every trick, every scrap of cunning. We hid in the debris fields, baiting them into ambushes. We overloaded our own engines to blind their sensors. We rammed their ships when our guns failed. When the smoke cleared, 2 Dominion ships were wrecks. The rest retreated. And for the first time, the galaxy saw a miracle. Humanity had stood against a Dominion and lived. After that, more came. Fleets trickled in. Refugees. Outcasts. Whole species who had given up on the Concord's fractured council. They came to us. To humans. We weren't ready for leadership. We weren't prepared for war. But the galaxy didn't care. And when Verac's fleets burned world after world, the choice was made for us. We would fight. I didn't sleep much in those days. Every night, I stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars. They didn't look cruel anymore. Not exactly. They looked waiting to see if we would rise or fall. I thought of Earth often. The oceans, the forests, the laughter of children in Nairobi streets. They had no idea the war had already begun. And maybe that was for the best. Let them sleep, let them dream, while we bled for their future. The silver being came to me once, in the quiet between battles. Its form rippled, reflecting my gaunt face. You were not chosen for this. Yet you lead. Why? I swallowed hard. My voice came out rough. Because someone has to. It tilted as though considering. You are fragile, short-lived, prone to chaos. And yet, you change the galaxy merely by refusing to kneel. Perhaps weakness is not what we thought. I almost laughed. Weakness, strength, words that had haunted us since this all began. Maybe they had it backwards all along. The war spread. The Dominion pressed harder, bringing fleets larger than anything we could match. Worlds burned. Refugees poured in. And still we stood, Not because we were stronger, not because we were ready, but because we refused to stop. Because when tyrants demanded surrender, we said no. Because someone had to. The galaxy thought humanity would break. Instead, we had become the spark of resistance. And sparks, given time, can burn empires down. War is not glory. It is not banners in the wind or the triumphant roar of victory. War is the silence of burned worlds, the ash of cities, the hollow eyes of refugees staring at you as if you can save them, when you don't even know if you'll survive tomorrow. And yet we endured. The resistance spread. Humans led fleets of dozens of species, each more broken than the last. Our ships were cobbled together wrecks, our weapons scavenged, our soldiers untrained. Against the Dominion's endless armadas, we should have been dust. But every battle, every ambush, every desperate gamble, we lived. We adapted. And with each survival, more species joined us. Until the day came when Veyrak himself could no longer ignore us. The message arrived like thunder, a broadcast, unencrypted, across every channel in the galaxy. Veyrak's jagged face filled the stars. Humans, pretenders. You hide behind cowards and rabble, spreading your infection of defiance. Enough. Come to me. Face my fleet at the core of ash. One battle. One end. Refuse, and I will scour every world that harbors you. The chamber fell silent as we listened. Every leader of every species turned to me. The insectoid prime clicked her mandibles. We cannot match his fleet. The crystalline choirs whispered. He speaks truth. To fight is death. Even Alvarez muttered, "It's a trap. You know it's a trap." Of course it was. But traps cut both ways. I straightened. My voice calmed though my heart thundered. Then we fight. Not because we can win. Not because we're ready. But because if we don't, there will be nothing left to save. The silence that followed was heavy. Then one by one, voices rose. We will stand. We will fight. For the first time in 1,000 years, we will not kneel. The War Council ended not in despair, but in resolve. The final battle had begun. The core of ash was not a star system. It was a graveyard, a black hole, ancient and monstrous, surrounded by the wreckage of 1,000 lost wars. Broken fleets drifted in endless orbits, shattered hulls whispering of forgotten empires. It was here Veyrak waited. His fleet was a sea of darkness, hundreds of warships, vast dreadnoughts bristling with weapons, their black holes gleaming in the dying light. Ours, barely 100 ships, half held together by patchwork plating, reactors humming on borrowed time. But every ship carried a crew who had chosen to fight. Not slaves, not subjects, not conscripts, volunteers. And that was our weapon. The battle began with fire. Veyrak's dreadnoughts unleashed salvos that lit the graveyard like a false sunrise. Waves of plasma and missiles turned wreckage into shrapnel. But we were not where he thought. From the shadows of broken hulks, our ships lunged. Swarms of insectoid frigates tore into their flanks. Human crewed cruisers darted between giants, striking vulnerable engines. The crystalline choirs unleashed harmonics that shattered shields like glass. It was chaos, a storm of light and death. I stood on the bridge of our flagship, the Resolute, a ship cobbled together from 3 wrecks and a dream. Every impact shook the deck. Sparks rained from ruptured panels. But we kept fighting, because this wasn't just a battle. It was proof. Hours bled into eternity. We won skirmishes, lost ships. For every Dominion dreadnought that fell, 3 of ours were destroyed. But we didn't break. And then he came. Veyrak's flagship emerged from the shadows. Larger than any vessel I'd ever seen, its hull gleamed like obsidian, its weapons bristling with enough firepower to shatter moons. His voice thundered across every channel. You defy me? You, the fragile, the weak? I will end this myself. And he did. His flagship carved through our fleet like a blade through paper. Dozens of ships burned, their death cries filling the comms. Hope faltered. For the first time, I felt despair claw my chest. Maybe this was how it ended. Maybe humanity's defiance had only delayed the inevitable. But then a voice cut through the chaos. "Alvarez, Commander, you're thinking like them. Stop." I blinked. "What?" His voice was iron. "They fight with strength. We don't. We fight with everything else. Improvisation, desperation, madness. That's what got us here. That's how we win." And suddenly I saw it. The graveyard, the wrecks, the black hole. The battlefield itself was our weapon. We rallied what remained of our fleet. I gave the order. Draw him in. Make him follow. We darted, weaving through shattered hulks, baiting Veyrak's dreadnought closer to the core. His pride wouldn't let him stop. He chased, weapons tearing apart the graveyard, until we were where I wanted him, at the edge of the black hole. The Resolute shook as its gravity clawed at us. Warning sirens blared, but we held position, our engines screaming. Veyrak roared, "Trapped. You doom yourselves." But he didn't see the truth. Not yet. We had seeded the wrecks with charges, linked them into a chain reaction. Alvarez's voice crackled. "All ships clear. Now!" I slammed the detonator. The graveyard ignited. 1,000 wrecks became a storm of fire, a wave of molten shrapnel hurling into Veyrak's fleet. His dreadnought staggered, shields buckling under the torrent. Then the black hole's pull took hold. Massive, inescapable. His flagship groaned, hull fracturing as it was dragged toward the abyss. Veyrak's face filled the calm one last time, twisted with fury. This is not the end. And then his ship was gone, torn into the dark. Silence. For a heartbeat, only silence. Then the comms erupted. Cheers, cries, songs. The Dominion fleet, leaderless, broke. Ships fled, scattered into the stars. We had won, not by being stronger, not by being smarter, but by being human, by refusing to give up. After the battle, the Concorde met again. But it wasn't the same chamber of jeers and laughter. It was a hall of silence, broken only by the sound of 1,000 species standing to honor us. The silver being shimmered before me. You were called weak. You were tested. You were scorned. And yet, you endure where others fall. You lead where others kneel. Humanity, welcome, not as subjects, but as equals. The chamber thundered with voices, not in mockery, but in respect. Later, when the noise faded, I stood alone beneath the stars. I thought of Earth, of the people still unaware of the war we had fought for them, of the friends we had lost, of the silence we had endured, and I whispered to the night. They said we're weak. We proved them wrong.